Donald Trump is planning to turn himself in to Georgia authorities on Thursday of this week, following his, of course, fourth criminal indictment, which was filed in the state over his attempts to overturn the 2020 presidential election. Now, he didn't even have to surrender on that date, which would be August 24th, because the Fulton County DA, Fani Willis, gave him until August 25th, but apparently the day after the first GOP presidential debate, in which Trump will not be participating, by the way, he is planning to turn himself in Georgia. Now, in a Truth Social post, Trump wrote the following: "Can you believe it? I'll be going to Atlanta."
Yeah, of course we can believe it. This is the fourth one.
"I'll be going to Atlanta, Georgia on Thursday to be arrested by a radical left district attorney, Fani Willis, who is overseeing one of the greatest murder and violent crime disasters in American history. In my case, the trip to Atlanta is not for murder, but for making a perfect phone call. She campaigned and is continuing to campaign and raise money on this witch hunt. This is in strict coordination with crooked Joe Biden's DOJ. It is all about election interference." By the way, look, these details are more relevant for the federal prosecution for the attempts to overturn the election, but I gotta mention these details, which are just so damning. Let's go to graphics 5 and 6, okay? So when it came to the fake elector scheme in Nevada, get a load of this. An unnamed co-conspirator in the case, identified in the indictment only as co-conspirator 5, wrote a memo on December 6 titled "Fraudulent Elector Instructions." Both named Nevada as a contested state. Fraudulent was in the memo.
Yeah, it was called a fraudulent elector memo, and it had fraudulent elector instructions on it. On the nose. If you put it in a movie, they'd be like, yeah, but nobody would ever write a memo like that. You're being ridiculous.
My other favorite element to their, I guess I have to keep saying alleged because they haven't been convicted yet, but alleged crime here. In New Mexico, on December 13th, co-conspirator 5 wrote and sent fraudulent elector certificates for Trump's false electors in New Mexico, even though the state had not previously been among the targeted states and where there was no pending litigation on the defendant's behalf. Meaning, they had installed fake electors in New Mexico, even though they hadn't challenged the election results in New Mexico at all. There was no litigation in regard to New Mexico at all.
Yeah, so what does that mean, guys? That means, and they lost New Mexico by 10 points. These were not honest attempts at figuring out who won the election.
Exactly.
These were dishonest attempts to steal an election in a state they knew they had lost. They knew in New Mexico's case, it was definitive. It wasn't anywhere near contested. Even like the most crazed right winger doesn't talk about New Mexico. And here they were setting up fraudulent electors in New Mexico as well, because their aim wasn't to figure out who won. Their aim was to steal the election. And that's why he's going to trial. That's why he's guilty, in my opinion. And I think he's in some degree of trouble. Speaking of trouble, now we get to the most interesting parts, because this is the fourth rodeo for this guy, right? But this one's different because it's in Fulton County. And Fulton County in Georgia has a notorious prison, which is like in terrible shape. So they're like, wait, is he gonna go through what normal prisoners go in that process? Because in that process, it takes almost a whole day to get booked, hours and hours and hours. You get mug shots, you get fingerprinted, you get a very thorough body search. They're like, are they gonna body search Trump? And so some of these answers we don't know yet, but now my favorite part, they're gonna weigh him. Okay, now he's been lying about everything, including his weight. And I don't remember what he said it was, but he's like, I have the best health, which to be fair to him, he does have pretty good health, right? He's now nearly 80 and he's doing pretty well. But then he said some comical number about his weight, which no one believed. So now the bettors have put a line up and they're saying 273 and a half, and you can take over or under. Okay, and the betting is going towards over. So no, I don't think they're gonna do a body cavity search. I don't know, but I doubt they'll do a mug shot, but they gotta fingerprint him, obviously. They won't bring him through the normal process. They won't keep him there. He's gotta do a bond. But the bond is not guaranteed for reasons that I'll explain in a second.
Really?
It'll be a $200,000 bond. Of course it'll happen, don't get me wrong. But if there was any sense of normal process here, it would not be at all guaranteed. So for reasons I'll explain in a second. But look, we shouldn't get too ecstatic either about the humiliation that he has to go through there. But then the left makes a great point, including the NAACP in Atlanta. They go, okay, so we're going out of our way to make sure that Trump doesn't have a single hair on his head disturbed in this process. But this is a notorious prison that is so absurdly cruel to its inmates. So why don't we fix the prison instead of making sure that Trump doesn't get affected by the prison?
Here, totally agree on that.
Exactly. You know that prison has a lice and bed bug infestation. As now several inmates have died in that prison. And I don't know how in the world the lice and the bed bug infestation would make a difference, but they say in one of the cases, it might have also contributed to the death. Oh my God, this place is horrible. So you should not celebrate that Trump has to go through that. You should make sure it doesn't happen to anyone. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.